And let's turn our attention now to Plateau State, where there have been protests for and against the government's handling of the security crisis. And as that was on, the State House of Assembly was cordoned by security operatives to ensure safe passage of lawmakers into the premises. Majority Leader of the House, Daniel Nalong, told TVC News that the rumored plan to impeach the state governor is false. And we'll have details in this report.
There was unusual presence of law enforcement agents in the early hours of the day in front of the assembly complex. This raised suspicions that the complex was sealed. This group, known as the Plateau Youth, was first on the scene. Its members carried placards with inscriptions expressing solidarity with the State House of Assembly, which had called on residents to defend themselves against attacks by invaders. They chatted with journalists on why they gathered there.
We have come to show that this thing they have done, they are not alone in it.
Yes.
We, the people of Plateau State, we stand with them.
We elected them. So the government, the executive, should allow them to do their work, or else we will not fold our hands and allow them to do what they think they want to do. They cannot cow this house. We are here to defend them.
Another group surfaced hours later, carrying placards with a different message. They also share their thoughts with us.
We've been on the plateau, we've seen what is happening on the plateau, and all of us are coming together, the youth, the elders, everybody. Let's know how to bring our heads together of all the religions lines to see how we can provide solutions to our problems. We cannot be fighting each other. I mean, we all plateau people. We want peace. All we want is a better plateau. The legislative, the executive, all of us can come together and let's give ourselves a better plateau.
The state government, in a press statement, denied sealing the Assembly's main entrance. A few days ago, the Plateau State House of Assembly, in a press conference, had called on residents to stand up and defend themselves against attackers suspected to be Hada militiamen in the state. Governor Simon Lalong, in a state broadcast, announced the relaxation of the curfew initially imposed in 3 council areas of the state. Business activities are gradually picking up in the state capital following the relaxation of the curfew. Our crew went round to monitor the situation in town. There, we spoke with some residents about the latest development.
Of course, it's a welcome development, but we shouldn't just stop at that. I think there should be solutions being provided for these ugly occurrences, and I think we should be able to curtail them in the near future.
It's a welcome development, and as you can see, peace has gradually returned to the beautiful city of Jos Plateau State, and activities is coming up. As you can see, the lifting is a welcome development. We thank the governor for this, and we look forward for a peaceful coexistence within ourselves, both the Muslim and the Christian community of this town.
Residents of Jos, the state capital, see the decision of the state government to suspend the curfew imposed in Jos North, Jos South, and Bassa Council areas is a welcome development. They want the state government to do more in making sure that such experience does not reoccur again. From Joshua, TVC News, Jos.
And to walk us through this disturbing trend is the Director General, Plateau State Peace Building Agency, Joseph Lengbank. He joins us live via Zoom from Jos. Good to have you join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So for those who have been following events in Plateau State, they say that this crisis didn't start today. It started way back in the 90s. So you are the Director General of the Peace Building Agency. Talk to us about the nomenclature of this particular crisis that has made it very difficult to curb and to stop.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, this is a crisis. I mean, for those who are keen followers of the, issues here or the developments here in Plateau State, the crisis didn't begin today. It started sometimes in the 90s, late 90s, or perhaps the first time we had this experience of the outbreak of violent conflict, high intensity violent conflict, by the way, was on the 7th of September 2001. It was a very horrific experience. And in 2004, we had another repeat. In 2008, we had another relapse. In 2010, 2012, better part of 2014 and even 15. But an assumption of office of the current administration that is led by His Excellency Right Honorable Samuel Bakola Long, there was a change in terms of how government actually responds to the challenges of peace and security. In the past, the pattern has always been reactive, and what that means is that we wait until there is an outbreak of violent conflict before we go out trying to put up the fire. And usually, I mean, the responses usually oscillate between, setting up of commissions of inquiry and also, deployment of security forces into those zones of conflict with a view to restore law and order. But when the administration came, they thought there is a need for us to institutionalize peace building, that there is a need for us to shift away from this reactive mode of response to what we refer to as being proactive or preventative. And what that means is that we're able to speak to the issues of conflict at their latent stage. We don't have to wait until there is an outbreak before we go out trying to put out the fire. And that was what led to the setting up of the Plateau State Peace Building Agency. In essence, the mandate of the Peace Building Agency is to work with a wide range of stakeholders in order to ensure the harmonious coexistence of all the ethno-religious groups that make up the state. And of course, like I've said earlier on, this came at the heels of the failure of successive administrations to deal with issues of peace and security, in a very effective way. And so this agency was set up to serve as our own dedicated institutional framework for conflict prevention and peace building. And of course, it went to work. We work with a wide range of stakeholders across every spectrum of our own society. And as a result of that intervention, of course, we witnessed the return of relative peace in the state. And that is not to say, of course, there hadn't been, pockets of skirmishes or relapse or recurrence of violence here and there, but the intensity that we are used to seeing, and from 2001 to 2015, was drastically reduced. We had some moments of quiet, if I may say that, because of the approach and the philosophy that His Excellency, the Executive of Governor
I'm sorry,
of Plateau
I have to jump in here. Sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah,
there are those who would beg to disagree, especially when you talk about the proactive nature of how proactive and preemptive this government has been. We saw that the State House of Assembly had to pass a resolution to get the state government to make certain decisions. A bus was burnt in Plateau State, and most of them are not even indigents of that state. Some of them are from Ondo State, and we've seen that even other state governors are evacuating their students from Plateau State. So it has taken a different dimension, and one would not say it is for the best. What is the state government doing, and what are the challenges, especially limiting the state government from dealing with this issue decisively?
As much as this is another low moment in our own history, the whole idea that government isn't doing enough, or the Peace Building Agency hasn't done enough actually to contain, to manage to prevent the outbreak of violent conflict, I think is not completely correct. It is inaccurate. And why is this so? Let me say this very quickly. The likelihood of a relapse in a society that is emerging from conflict, don't forget that Plateau had gone through a series of episodes of violent conflict. The likelihood of a relapse is usually very high. It's typical of any society that is emerging from the throes of war. And why is it so? Because number one, most of the issues in the heart of the conflict might not probably or have been addressed completely, and of course increasing the likelihood of a relapse. Number two, there are people, as much as the government itself is determined to deepen the peace, there are individuals, in different segments of our society who are equally determined to bring down the roof upon everybody's head. There are politicians who are waiting to cash into the process. There are war merchants who are orchestrating violence, because the more the chaos, the more they smile to the banks. And of course, there are so many systemic issues that are perhaps even beyond the view of a subnational government, because we are all caught up in this. There are so many systemic issues that have remained unaddressed, even at the national level or even at the subnational level. So to say that government has not been doing anything, or the Peace Building Agency has not been doing anything, is quite uncharitable and indeed very unfair on the state. A lot of work has gone into the post-conflict peace building process. A lot of investment has gone both by state and non-state actors. And of course, the hallmark of the work that the Peace Building Agency does is to craft the kind of peace we want to see, of course, creating a platform for all stakeholders, both state and non-state actors, to make their own contributions to deepening the peace. It is not a responsibility of government alone. Of course, we talk about security being the primary responsibility of government in Nigeria, but you and I and everyone who is truly sincere knows that this goes far beyond the capacity of the state governments as provided in the Constitution. But of course, we have
I'm afraid we do have to leave it there. I wish we had enough time to talk about those individuals you say sort of feeling this crisis, but we do not have enough time. Thank you so much for talking to us about this and what the state government is doing at the moment. Director General, Plateau State Peace Building Agency, Joseph Lengmang.
Thanks for having me.